Today's topic for episode 13, we're going to be talking about how can you make more gains in less time, spend less time in the gym, but get more returns on building muscle, which also, if your body is utilizing more calories for building muscle, you tend to lose more fat too along the way, if that is your goal, if you're at calorie maintenance, if you're in a calorie deficit. So I got 4 big pieces as to how we can build more muscle in less time that you guys can use. If you have any questions, if you're streaming this, especially if you're streaming from YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, ask away some questions so we can get these going for after the topic. But so the topic today is going to be more gains in less time. And now, why is this important? Or like, how did I learn these things? So for me, back in college and high school, back in college, I had all the time in the world. I was doing oftentimes 2.5, 3 hour long training sessions. I was doing powerlifting back in college, back at Rutgers, co-founded the Rutgers powerlifting team. And when it was class time, sometimes maybe a little bit late to lecture or something, but I would get my workouts done. And then I would go over to the dining hall where I have unlimited grilled chicken breasts. So my protein was hit, didn't have to cook. So, it was good times. But when I got into actual, reality kind of set in, or what real adulting kind of is going to look like when I got into pharmacy school rotations. So back in Rutgers, I was a pharmacy student, and then getting into, completing that year 6 out of the 6-year program. That's when we got out of the classroom and where we had to pretty much pay tuition to work 40-hour work weeks as a rotation student. So you would go to, I think there was like 8 or 9 different rotations, and I was at like hospitals for like 4 or 5 weeks at a time. And then they move you kind of to different places. So you can kind of gain experience while also not being on kind of payroll. You're kind of paying to work. But that's where kind of reality settled in. So at this time, I was working, as a rotation student. So we had pretty much 8-hour work days. And then plus commutes. So a normal 40-hour a week work week, or 40 to 50 hours. On top of that, I was building my coaching business. So I was working 10 to 20 hours coaching people. I think I had like 50 clients at the time. And on top of that, I was doing social media stuff. So I think I was doing like weekly vlogs back in those times on YouTube, doing my own editing and stuff. So that was another 10 hours. And I was also posting 2 to 3 times a day on Instagram. So it was just a lot of hours. So I was probably working those 60, 70-hour work weeks. I also had another failed business at the time. I was doing apparel as well. If anyone remembers Buff Penguin. So I had to learn how to get more efficient because I didn't have 3 hours a day to work out anymore. And I didn't have all-you-can-eat chicken breast and food already prepped for me where I just walk into the dining hall. So what happened at this time is I had to get more efficient. Like many people out there, you may be watching, you're like, okay, I can't resonate with somebody who is like, I guess now I'm a fitness influencer, I guess we could call me. But you may not have all the time in the world to train. You may not have time for 3-hour sessions. You may have to, cook your own meals, get your work done, do your commutes. So what I want to help you today is going to be, with the same amount of time spent in the gym, how do you get more gains in less time? So I got 3 or 4 main topics that I'm going to be covering to help you with that. And so make more gains in less time. The number one thing, so the first thing we can do here in the gym is leverage supersets. So we can leverage supersets. What is a superset? So that's pretty much where you're going to do antagonist muscle groups, or you're just going to pretty much do exercise. You do a set of an exercise, then another exercise, then rest. Instead of exercise set, rest, set, rest. This one is going to allow you to do, let's say, like an example here would be, you're going to do some bicep curls. So set of curls, then directly to tricep extensions, and then you take your rest, then rest. So pretty much what this is going to do is, by doing this, instead of taking, it's kind of, you're going to be able to add, I don't know, what is this, 50% more volume or 30% more volume? I can't do the math off the top of my head, but you're going to be able to do a set, and then you do your rest. Actually, you pretty much double your volume, but there's a whole other thing with time. But so you're going to be able to do a curl set, you're going to be able to do tricep set, before you actually take a short rest period. Because when your biceps are recovering after you pretty much toast your biceps, your triceps are fresh because they're antagonist muscle groups. They're not overlapping. So this is going to allow you to get more volume in the same amount of time. I use this with a lot of my workouts. So instead, if like you do, bicep curls, I'm going to hit those. Now I'm going to wait 1 to 2 minutes. Then I do my next set, then wait 1 to 2 minutes. At least in this case, you're going to be able to do your set, allow your biceps to recover while you do your triceps. And then you can take probably a shorter break just to catch your breath a little bit, like cardiovascularly catch your breath. And this has been shown to actually like not decrease really the effectiveness of our workouts. I guess I would probably argue like, if all needed be and I had to get the best curl workout of my life, I'd probably do a set of curls and then I'd probably wait 5 minutes between that and my next set. So there may be a small trade-off there, but you're going to be able to pack a lot more volume per minute by leveraging supersets. So what my workouts look like is usually 4 supersets. And you want to pair this up with exercises that don't overlap. So if you were doing something of like bench press and then chest flies, you're doing chest and then chest. So your chest doesn't get to like recoup, recover, and then give its best effort. It's just getting, double punished. That's more like a drop set. So what you want to do here is you would do like a chest and a back exercise. So like maybe you're going to do dumbbell press, and then you're going to superset that with like maybe a seal row or a rowing movement. So now, once you do your chest movement, now your chest is pretty much beat. It's recovering while you do your pulling movement. And then you can take a shorter break, catch your breath, and then you can go back in. So you're going to be able to get more done than if you had 8 separate exercises and you just had, that would be, let's say, 4 sets per exercise. You're going to have 32 rest breaks. Or if it's just the in-betweens, you're going to have like 24 rest periods. So it's going to help you be a little bit more efficient there. This has been really useful for me. Just again, I'm getting more volume in the same allotted, let's say, hour and a half or 2 hours in the gym. I'm able to get a lot more done this way, and you get a really, really good pump. And so that's some of the examples here. I would say that this is less well suited if you are doing something like, if you're doing heavy compound movements, don't superset well. But I would say big compound, we're going to go with that, plus like isolation movement does work well, isolation movement. So what that would be is I like doing this. So here's some examples of how I use supersets. So I said pushes and pulls. It's upper body. It's not super systemically fatiguing. I'm not super out of breath from like a set of chest presses. Rather than if you compare that with like a set of barbell squats to failure, like you're going to feel that in your soul and like you're really going to want 3 to 5 minutes to catch your breath. So in these cases, I think of like an upper body exercise, more of a moderate. So I can do like a press and a pull, and I can pretty much superset that pretty effectively. On the flip side for legs, I'm probably not going to do like a deadlift and a squat superset. There's some overlapping lower back and stuff. And, the muscles that keep us upright, they're going to be kind of overlapping, but also they're just very, very systemically fatigued movements. And you're going to want like a lot of time between those to catch your breath. So what I would do in these cases is I would pair up with my squats to bicep curls. So while I'm catching my breath, I can hit a set of curls. That's going to be not super cardiovascularly taxing. It's going to be able to catch my breath a little bit beforehand. Then my legs are going to be able to catch up, and then I'm able to go into the next one. So sometimes I'll do a big compound with like an arm or like a lateral raise or a tricep type exercise. So that's what I do. If you want to get, more volume and less time in the gym, I would definitely start with supersets. I would think that's a really good way to like pair up exercises in your routine, and then you can kind of condense your total rest periods. Number 2, the second way that I would focus on getting more gains in less time is I'd focus on compound movements. So compound movements. And what are compound movements? These are just movements, or let's put them as exercises that engage more than one muscle group, pretty much. So it's compound. It's going to be multiple kind of, it could be multi-joints. It could just be, multiple kind of muscle groups. So an example here of like what would be like a compound movement versus like a non-compound movement. This should be like if you do a chest fly, you're just pretty much hitting your chest, just your chest. But if you do a press, Now you're involving, your anterior delt is going to get stretched here. And also you have your tricep that also gets involved in the press. So you're hitting your chest along with a little bit of seasoning on your triceps and your shoulders. So now you kind of got, primary mover is going to be your chest, your pecs, but now you're adding in a little bit of seasoning onto your triceps and shoulders. If you're just doing, chest flies for, your workouts, then you're going to want to hit like probably an anterior delt raise, or you're going to add a separate, tricep extension, rather than if you're using more of these compound movements, you're going to be able to move more weight, and you're going to incorporate or engage more muscles to move that greater weight. So this can be just from like a training structure. If you're focusing on more of these compound movements, if you have just limited time, this could be very helpful. So some examples here is also like a squat. Squats aren't just going to hit your quads or they just hit your glutes. Like if you're doing your whole leg days, like leg extensions, which just hit your quads, and then you're going to do, some leg curls, which will just probably hit your hamstrings. And then you're going to go and do, like a glute kickback, which is just going to hit your glutes. You could probably get a lot more out of doing some squats, which will hit your quads and glutes, and then like an RDL. And you're probably going to get, instead of those 3 exercises you did, you'll probably get some more growth from these, 2 movements. Like an RDL, probably hamstrings and glute. Squats, depending on your biomechanics, typically is going to be quads and your glutes. So by focusing and doubling down on compound movements, just getting really strong, you can simplify a lot of fluff in your workouts too. And here's another piece. Let's say that you're doing just flies and I forgot what these are called, but they're kind of pull downs. So pull downs for like your lats. You're doing that on like a cable stack. So you're just pretty much hitting your lats. So pull downs, not like a lat pull down, but separate. But if you're just doing these pull downs, you're just hitting your lats. There's really nothing else getting used. If you're just doing flies, really nothing else but your chest is being used. If you compare that with like doing presses and pulls, your presses are going to, again, now you hit some of your shoulders, you're going to hit your triceps as well. And your pulls are now going to incorporate your biceps as well along the way as you do these movements. So you're getting that extra seasoning while still the limiting factor being that primary mover, that primary target. So I would focus on, and if I want to make more gains in less time, getting super strong at compound movements in the gym. So I'd probably simplify my training a little bit and just really double down on getting a really strong squat, really strong press, really strong pull. And then if you're stronger, it keeps your stuff simple. You don't have to go in and do 16 different exercises and run around the gym the entire time. Because also there's something to simplicity when you're not running around the gym for multiple different exercises. And now, number 3, if we want to be more efficient in the gym, get more gains for our time, number 3 thing we can do is going to be train with intensity. And so this has been shown, more recently, it's been a very popular topic, but you can throw a ton of volume at your muscles and get some growth, but that's almost always going to perform better when you're making sure that you're training with the quality, that intensity. But what is intensity? So intensity is just pretty much how close to failure are you training? Pretty much how hard are you training? And I feel like this is the number one thing. This is the number one thing that holds people back from actual making gains in the gym. Like you'll hear all the time, oh, I'm in the gym 4 times, 5 times a week. And my conversation is like, I look nothing like you. You have lucky genetics. Or, wow, I've trained, 4 times, 5 times a week for 5 years, but I can't, seem to make much progress. It's almost always training intensity. And if I could just kind of give you guys a little story of what kind of shows the lack of training intensity for a lot of people is when people, it's a big milestone on bench press, barbell bench press. You add a 45 to the sides and it's that's a big moment. Like when you add your first 45 to the sides on bench press, absolutely huge. But then I see that same person every training session just slap on the same 45s and do the same amount of reps with that same just 45-pound plates. Or somebody will hit 225 on bench. That's 2 plates on each side. And then every time they go into the gym, they do that for a single and they're still got it. And then they just do the same. They drop it down. They do the same rep work every time rather than them looking to hit 2 reps this time Or rather than adding those little 2.5 pound plates on the side. And this frustrates me. We have such beautiful stuff in 2024. We have all this opportunity in terms of like our training equipment, but people don't use those little tiny plates to make their bench max go from 225 to 230, or make their sets of 5 go from 235 to 240. And those are the little gains that lead to big gains over the long term. It's these little wins. So use those 2.5 pound plates. Allow your PRs to build up over time, and that's going to be where you really get those big heaps of progress over the long term. It's never a surprise when you hit a 50-pound PR. It's hundreds of little 5-pound PRs along the way. And, Desmond knows what's up. Yep, add a 5-pound plate here and there, slowly build up. That's what I'm talking about. But some people just get married to the same 135 on the bar, the same 2 plates. Maybe it's 185 for some people. Where it's like, oh, 1 plate and I'll throw on the 25. But they just marry that weight and they just keep doing the same thing. So enough of that. Enough of like me ranting. So train with intensity. So if you are training hard enough, if you are pushing your limits, if you're training close to failure being when you cannot do any more reps, if you get the 135 pounds on the bar and you can do 10 reps and you stop at 5, you're not training with much intensity. You left 5 reps in the tank. If you can do 10 reps and you hit 9 reps or 10 reps, that's sufficient intensity. That's where you're pushing yourself. That's where you're testing your limits. And so what tends to happen when you train with more intensity? 1, you tend to grow. You tend to grow regardless because you're just training hard. And then if you have a constant for training hard and your capabilities are improving or increasing over time, you actually like keep getting better. And that's kind of like how you progressive overload. That's why it works. So you tend to grow, 1, and that is with because also, what some people do is just throw a ton of volume at it. You can do a ton of volume training in the gym, to have 2-hour training sessions, just throwing a ton of volume at your muscles. And yes, you will grow pretty well. Volume is definitely a piece of the equation. But if you want to grow more from that same volume, train with intensity. Make those sets that you're doing, make sure that they're sufficient intensity or close to failure. You can grow while throwing a lot of volume at a muscle and like still being reasonably far from failure. Or you can take a lot of those sets to failure, be very difficult. That's where you're going to be making a lot of gains as well. So if the volume is equal, you're going to grow more having that volume be intense. Now on the flip side, you'll even grow with less volume. So if we have these things, we have this less intense volume. Now we bring high intensity, but we decrease that volume. You're going to be able to get the same amount of gains with a little bit less volume. So very important. And if I just want to simplify this tip, beat the logbook. Because again, when you have a constant of training towards your limit, that's going to push your limit. And then when you allow yourself to recover from pushing your limit, the limit has already increased. But if we make it a standard to train towards our limit, that means if our limit's here and we're training up to it, that's our performance. Now we've pushed our limit, the limit has increased, and we've made it a standard that we hit the limit. That's how you're slowly going to be climbing over time. But if we're always sandbagging, if we're always leaving 5 reps in the tank, you're not really pushing this limit anymore because you're just constantly being below what is necessary or what is needed. So at the end of the day, train with sufficient intensity, and be that if you add some more volume, be it if you decrease your volume, you're going to see better gains per set. Shout out to Greg, the Elon and Yumi Tree Fund. Thank you, Greg. You don't have to do it, but I appreciate it every time, Greg. Thank you. Now, number 4, in terms of getting more gains with less time in the gym, the 4th one is going to be a little bit different because I know a lot of people here are busy professionals, working 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks. You don't have the time for the gym. In the 168 hours, you just don't have the time, or it's hard to make the time. It's scheduling. And I'm going to tackle this with like 2 big pieces, and this is where this has helped me. So to start, in terms of scheduling, what I mentioned earlier is at this time of my life, when I was in pharmacy school retentions, I was I had a coaching business with 50 clients. I had a failing apparel business. I was doing 40 plus hours of pharmacy school rotations. And I was posting 2 to 3 times on Instagram and vlogging on a weekly basis and editing that myself. So I was busy too. And what worked very well for me is getting in the gym. So in the gym when less people are. So for me, that was 4 a.m. or let's say 5 a.m. So I would train 5 to 7 a.m. and then I'm able to get to, where I got to go, be that a long commute or whatever. I'm there at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and I'm good. Or what you can do, because not everybody is going to be like me and say like, I want to do, the 10 alarm strategy and get up at 4 a.m., 4:15 a.m. Your strategy may be the 8 p.m. There's typically less people at 8 p.m. than there is at noon or 5 p.m. I'd say the danger zone, so let's put DZ, it's probably going to be in that I haven't been there so much, but 3 to 7 p.m., probably more specifically 4 to 6 is going to be really rough. But if you avoid those hours, you can tend to get more done because you have to dodge less people. There's less waiting for equipment. You're able to get through your workout a lot more seamlessly. So I'd recommend go at the dead times. Why are those times dead? Why are less people there? Because it's less desirable to be there. It's supply and demand, baby. So if there's not a lot of people in the gym at 5 a.m. because it sucks to be there, then that's the hard work to be done to get. That's the cost of doing business to have an empty gym to train at. Let's get up early because it sucks. So less people do it. So that's why I do it, because there's less people to kind of walk around, be in the way of, etc. But if you don't want to do that, for every getcha, there's a gotcha. For every decision, there's a cost. And so if you just want to roll into the gym after work, a lot of people like doing that strategy. They want to finish up their work and they want to just go straight to the gym because they want to get it all done in one shot, which I do as well. If back in the rotation days, I would go train and then I go straight to the gym and then I go straight home. Some people like to get up, go to work, and then go straight to the gym. But a lot of people make that decision. So that cost is you're going to have a more packed gym and it's going to be a little bit of a party. But if you're a social kind of person and you like, making new friends, all the power to you. I'm kind of a selective extrovert, introvert. It really depends. I don't really know what I'm diagnosed if I'm an extrovert or introvert. But that all being said, be strategic with the times you go. The second piece is going to be calendar. So schedule it in. And this kind of plays synergistically. When there's a time where you feel you can be more, dialed in the gym, you can get your work done a lot quicker, then maybe block that in your calendar so you have a visual reminder, or, use the weekends. The weekend mornings tend to be a little bit less. A lot of people will train, actually, I don't really even know, honestly. I just I'm in there every morning and it's pretty dead around 5 a.m. It's pretty dead at 6 a.m. on the weekends. And so maybe you just find those times that are a little bit quieter that's realistic for you. And then those is probably going to be the times to go in there to make sure you can get more gains in less time, get more volume done in less time. So that is the topic for today. We talked about making more gains in less time and how to make that realistic over the long term so you can get super jacked, get bigger than me, and then you can be, the best coach ever. But bring it on. So that's going to be the top 4. Use supersets in the gym. 2, compound movements. Focus and prioritize on those. Train with sufficient intensity. Train hard in the gym. And 4, use scheduling to your advantage. Be in the gym at dead times so you have less people to dodge. And then also schedule it in, use your calendar so you can be effective and efficient. So that is the topic that we prepared for today.